It started as a normal morning until something in the yard didn't belong, and once we noticed it, we couldn't stop seeing everything else that felt wrong. Mom! Eli's voice cracks first, then Ava joins him, higher and sharper. Dad, come look at this! Dad, quick! I'm already halfway across the yard when they start shouting. I had the basket. I drop it. Eggs roll into the grass, plastic against wet dirt. What is it? I say. Eli doesn't answer. He's just pointing. Not at the ground, but past it, toward the shed. Ava says, it wasn't like that before. The shed door is open, not wide, just enough to show the dark inside. I know Dad locked it last fall. He always checks twice. He says it out loud when he does it. I locked it, he says now from the porch, but he doesn't come down the steps. Stay where you are. Behind him, Mom calls his name, not loud, strained. He turns back, and we're still out here. I step closer. I don't want to, but they're both looking at me like I'm supposed to know what to do. The grass is flattened in a path that wasn't there yesterday. We were supposed to finish the egg hunt fast. That was the deal. 10 minutes, Dad said, then back in. Your mom needs quiet. He set the timer on his phone and held it up like proof. Mom didn't come to the windows. She'd been in bed since last night. Something with her breathing. That's all I know. Dad kept his voice low when he talked to her, like the house might hear. So he handed me the big basket. You're in charge, he said. I didn't want that. Not really. But Eli was already bouncing on his heels, and Ava had her shoes on the wrong feet, so we went. At first, it was all normal. Cold air, damp dirt, the plastic eggs too bright against everything, brown and gray. Eli found 3 in the first minute. Then Ava said, Who put those back there? She was looking past the shed, at the narrow strip between it and the fence. We don't hide eggs there. Dad says it's too tight. There were no eggs, just a small pile of tied grocery bags, white plastic, dirt smudged, not ours. Eli said, Did Dad do that? I said, No. I don't know how I knew, I just did. We don't go straight to the shed, we circle it. Like that makes more sense. Stay together, I say. I sound like Dad and I hate it. The ground behind the shed is different, packed down. Not just one set of footprints, a lot of them, layered. There's a crushed soda can, I think it's soda, near the fence. Not a brand we buy. The top is bent like someone kept opening it and closing it again. Ava says, That's gross. Eli says, Maybe someone threw it over the fence. But the fence is tall, and the can is too clean on one side, like it was set down, not tossed. I see something else near the base of the shed. A boot. Just one. Mud dried thicker on the sole. The laces are missing. Eli nudges it with his shoe. Don't touch that, I say, and he freezes. Ava whispers, Why is it here? I didn't answer, because there's no good version. There's a smell, too. Not strong, just enough to notice when you stop moving. It's sour and old. It's coming from inside the shed. We start noticing things we missed. At the corner of the yard, one of the eggs is cracked open, but not by us. The candy is gone, but the plastic shell is put back together and set carefully on the ground. Eli says, That's not funny. I didn't do it, I say. Well, I didn't, Ava says quickly. We look at each other and nobody says the next thing out loud. Near the deck steps, there's a strip of fabric caught on a nail, dark like part of a sleeve. Not ours. It's been there long enough to fade at the edges. And on the side of the house, just under the kitchen window, there's a mark, a smear, like someone leaned there with dirty hands. I can picture it without wanting to. Someone standing close to the house, close enough to hear inside. Ava says, Do you think they can see us? No, I say, but too fast. Eli says, From where? I look back at the shed. The door hasn't moved, still open just enough. Waiting feels worse than moving. Stay behind me, I say. This is the part where I should have turned around, taken them inside, knock until Dad answers. I didn't. I walk toward the shed. Each step feels louder than it should. Gravel crunches. My breathing sounds wrong in my own ears. Maybe it's just a raccoon, Eli says, his voice thin. Raccoons don't tie trash bags, Ava says. We're close enough now to see inside, but not clearly. Just shapes, stacked boxes, old tools, the tarp Dad threw in there last fall. And something else. A shape that doesn't belong to any of those things. I stop. Do you see that? Ava whispers. I do. It looks like a pile at first, a mound against the back wall. Then it shifts. Not big, just enough to be real. Eli grabs my sleeve. We should go. Yeah, I say, but I don't move yet. Because if I leave without knowing, it stays unknown, and that feels worse. I take one more step and push the door. It opens with a dry scrape. Light cuts into the space, and the shape stands up. It's a person. Not like in a movie. No sudden noise, no rush. Just a slow unfolding. Tall, thinner than I expect. Clothes layered wrong for the weather. A jacket over something torn. Hair that doesn't sit right, like it hasn't been washed in a long time. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at us. His eyes move from Eli to Ava like he's counting, calculating. Ava makes a small sound, not a scream, not yet. I feel it all hit at once. The bags, the boot, the window. He's been here. Not just here, but watching. Close it, Eli says. He's crying now. I don't remember deciding. I slam the door. The sound snaps everything loose. Dad, I yell. Dad! We run, not in a straight line. We trip over eggs, kick them aside. The basket is still in the grass, tipped over, candy spilling out. Dad! Ava's screaming now. The back door flies open. Dad comes out fast this time. What happened? He says. There's someone in there, I say. My voice doesn't sound like mine. In the shed. He stood up. Dad doesn't look at anything else. He just runs past us. He gets to the shed in seconds. I expect the door to burst open again and for someone to come out. It doesn't. Dad yanks it wide. Hey, he shouts, and nothing answers. He steps inside. I hold Eli and Ava back. They're both shaking. Dad comes out slower. There's no one in here, he says. That's not possible, I say. He was there, Ava said. He looked at us. Dad doesn't argue. He just looks inside again and then around the yard. There's stuff, he says finally. We go closer, but not too close. Inside the shed, it's clear now. A blanket folded in the corner, not ours. Empty cans, a flashlight, a small stack of things wrapped in plastic. Dad doesn't touch anything. He's been staying here, he says. Where did he go? Eli asks. Dad looks at the fence, at the narrow gap behind the shed. I don't know, he says, but his voice has changed. The police come within 20 minutes. 2 cars, quiet lights. They walk the yard, the shed, the fence line. One of them crouches near the bags. Another takes photos. He's been here a while, one officer says to Dad. Weeks, maybe longer. Watching us, Dad says. The officer doesn't answer directly. We'll set up patrols, he says, and you should get cameras, front and back, motion alerts, lights. Mom never comes outside. We watch from the window as they leave. The yard looks the same again, eggs in the grass, basket on its side, like nothing changed. That night, Dad installs temporary lights that flick on with movement. They go off twice before midnight. Nothing is there when we check. In the morning, the shed is empty, cleaned out except for what we already saw. No tracks leading away and no new ones coming in. Dad orders cameras that day. Puts one facing the shed, one facing the kitchen window. and one pointed at the yard where the eggs had been. We still don't know when he left or how long he was standing there before we opened the door.